Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Holani. Well, I suppose most of our regular viewers could have guessed where we would be going, and it's the whole question of the state of emergency and Anambra State. Now, it's not news anymore. The Attorney General has, he stated that it was a matter that was considered in the Federal Executive Council meeting, and that it won't be taken off the table should we even get there. All options will be on the table to sustain law and order. And there were statements along the lines of, if it comes to be proved that the constituted authority, meaning the government in Anambra, is not able to maintain peace, law and order, then nothing would be taken off the table. Of course, there have been howls of protest up and down the land, even as the news was released late. Still, between then and now, there's been so very much, shall I say, protests in the main. No doubt there are other people, but protests in the main. People who know about the law are saying, hang on, have we actually got to that stage yet? We shall consider it this morning. And I have this morning, security chief. He's also a lawyer, DG, International Institute of Professional Security, Dr. Tony Ofoyetan. Tony, thank you very much for coming on the program. You're welcome, sir. And Comrade Malachi Ugwummadu, yes. Former President, CDHR, Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, and legal practitioner.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity this morning. Good morning, viewers.
Our pleasure. And joining us remotely via Zoom is the APGA National Legal Adviser, Mr. Sly Ezeokenwa. He is joining us remotely, I believe from Anambra State. So if you can hear us now, good morning to you, Mr. Ezeokenwa. Well, I was told he was there, apparently, but in any case, he'll join us as we go along. Let me start with you, Malachi, if I could. Most people were surprised. Were you as well? Haven't been observing happenings. True, it's been rambunctious. It's been very tough in the southeast, and in particular in Anambra, the election, and that is why most people howled, because there will be implications for the election. And quite frankly, they haven't taken very kindly to it in Anambra State itself, as is evidenced by the Commissioner for Information, Sidon Adinoba, who has also put out a statement. And quite frankly, he is saying that this is highly suspicious. That's his own particular interpretation of it. Give me your impression, Malachi, and I'll ask the same of Tony. How surprised were you that this is even, it has entered the thought process of the federal authorities?
Well, I sincerely doubt whether surprise was my mood or still is my situation, because we are now at a stage where quite a number of issues are at play now. There is the issue of the law, there is the issue of security, there is the issue of the civic rights of Nigerians for the electoral processes. There is even political contestations. So what is a fact is that the Attorney General of the Federation has, soon after the Executive Council meeting, made a statement indicating that the federal government may be disposed or will be disposed to go the way of a state of emergency
if it deems it necessary.
In the event that it becomes necessary. The question is, will it ever become necessary? The Constitution answered the question to say that once the circumstances expressly outlined in the Constitution, and I'm referencing section 305, once those circumstances exist, namely breakdown of law and order, either in the entire federation or any part thereof, or where the nation is at war, or where it has become necessary to safeguard the country itself, the federal government has that option. But it didn't stop there, because there are other contending factors elsewhere in the country on the basis of which people of that state in particular, and by extension that region, are posing very valid questions to say, wait a minute, if what we're experiencing either in Anambra or in any part of the southeast is not comparable with what other regions and states have been subjected to by the activities of insurgent groups, terrorist groups, kidnappers for over 5 to 6, 7 years now, then you cannot be justifying this kind of statement very close to the elections. Permutations are ready into it.
Exactly.
Security issues are there. The legal, so it's quite convoluted. And until we were able to.
When you got there, that reminded me, as I said that Sidon Adinuba, the Information Honorable Commissioner for Information in Anambra State, he's actually put out a statement that, in his view, that what is going on in Anambra is not even, quoting him directly now, is not even a fraction of the casualties the nation has seen in places like Borno, Zamfara, Katsina, Benue, Plateau, Yobe, Niger, Adamawa, Taraba, and others, where terrorists have not only killed several thousands of civilians, but also successfully attacked military formations and slaughtered soldiers and other security officers. That is just a part of his statement. Yeah. Let me check with Mr. Ezeokenwa, Mr. Sly Ezeokenwa in Anambra there. Good morning to you. Now we can see you. We had wanted to say good morning earlier. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Sly Ezeokenwa is the APGA National Legal Adviser. Give me your take on the news from yesterday that whereas it is not necessarily imminent, it has been made known by the Attorney General that it was considered in the Executive Council meeting, Federal Executive Council meeting, and that they were not shy to go there if need be. Give me your impressions.
On our part, I don't think I quite agree that the federal government is not actually or have not really decided on the proclamation of a state of emergency. We see this as just a smoke screen by the federal government, or what I may call that the federal government may be flying a kite, to test the senses and the sensibilities of the Anambra, and by extension, testing our resolve towards having a credible, election, come November 6th. What I should say, it generated much outrage, within the entire populace of Anambra for the Attorney General of the Federation, who is the Chief Law Officer, and by extension, the person that should be advising the federal government and by extension the president on legal issues affecting the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In what appeared to be, a clearly orchestrated plan by the APC-controlled federal government, to show, because we, in our party APGA, we've been, making this point for a while now, that there are sinister plots and moves by the federal government to compromise the, credible conduct of election in Anambra State by certain things we have seen.
Now, and since you mentioned it, just in case there's anybody who doesn't know, APGA is the ruling party in Anambra State.
Yes, yes, I will come to that. I'll definitely come to that. Anambra State, for about getting to 16 years now, has been controlled by the All Progressive Grand Alliance. He equally controls the majority of the seats in the Anambra State House of Assembly. Now, for some time now, APGA has been raising the fears that there are plans to scuttle or to compromise the free, fair, and credible conduct of the November 6th general governorship election in Anambra State. Now, after the Federal Executive Council meeting yesterday, the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, SAN, addressed a press conference where he purported to say that, considering the issues of violence or pockets of violence that have been kind of bedeviled the state within the past few days or weeks, that the federal government is geared towards conducting a free, fair, credible election in Anambra State, and to ensure that that they are not taking any option off the table. And I ask you, or it gets any sensible person who has followed the politics of Anambra State for a while now really, really, really worried.
Okay, we'll come back to you as soon as the line stabilizes, because we actually did get a little notice there that the line, the data connection was a bit unstable. But in the meantime, I can come to Tony. Tony, there's another way to look at it, perhaps. The federal government, has the responsibility, the duty to ensure law and order, generally speaking. Of course, there is then specialization, so to speak. Could you, I think it's important to say that they haven't said yet that a state of emergency is about to be imposed. That has not been said. But they also have said that it will remain alongside other options on the table for consideration should the need come. Now, could you sort of liken that to the responsibility of the federal government to say, look, we are wide awake and we're keeping our eyes on the situation, and whatever it takes, we will maintain peace of constituted authority and constituted authority?
My answer is no, and unapologetically too. What is happening in Anambra State as it is now is not as worse as what has happened in Imo State. And even in the heat of the whole casualty in Imo State, the federal government never came out to say we are going to declare state of emergency. And
it hasn't said so now.
Yeah, I said it has not come out to say it's going to.
Yes, okay, yes, it's good.
Yes.
Okay.
So to me, I see it as just one of the political gimmicks from the federal government. But having said so, ultimately, everybody talking, we're all interested in peace and security. And I must tell you and admit that what is happening in Anambra of late, is not something very palatable at all. The killing of the husband of Dora was so heartbreaking to some of us. I don't know if that was the passion with which the government now said, look, there are about 11 people or thereabout that were killed on that same day in that same incident.
It was reported that he was mistaken as a political figure.
But if we look at it from various narratives, it means also that the government is not looking at its own security network and architecture there. Who are the so-called unknown gunmen? For government to come and say that we don't know these people is a big indictment. When you have the DSS, you have the DMI, you have the police, you have the army, you have all the security architecture and network at your own disposal. The state governor is more or less just like a ceremonial security chief in the state. He is not going to do anything fundamental without getting the go-ahead from the federal government. Now, having said so, the government is now saying that, look, we cannot. That is the meaning of we may declare state of emergency, is as saying that as it is now, the security we have on ground may not be able to. We have done all our best possible. Let's look at the option of a state of emergency if the need arises. And that's my own interpretation about the whole thing. Because if you have everything it takes to be able to identify the unknown gunmen, until now you have not been able to identify it, it's an indictment. It simply means that the money we are paying to the intelligence agency, we now should begin to query what they use it for, especially the DSS director in Anambra State, all the intelligence agencies in Anambra State. If you have not been able to arrest somebody linked to any of this crime, you have not been able to prosecute them linked to any of this crime, and say, okay, we have taken and we have done everything, we have prosecuted these people, we have done this, and even at that, maybe we now see that the government in power is supporting, either clandestinely, openly, directly or indirectly. Then the next option is we have to take power, because emergency rules simply mean you are taking power from the government that is in power in that particular state, in most cases as a result of civil unrest and all those stuff like that. But having said so, to me, as it is now, there is nothing spectacular that is happening in Anambra State. Very painfully, that is not, the worst of it is not happening in Borno, in Yobe, in Zamfara, in Benue, in Jos.
Adamawa,
Adamawa, just name it. Whatever is happening.
Because I was going to ask if all that Tony has said, Malachi, if it couldn't be said in relation to the challenges that we are facing in those aforementioned places, where Benue, Katsina, Zamfara, Kaduna, go anywhere, Niger, where again the sponsors of Boko Haram are not known. Even when anybody has been quite helpful, you say you're working on verifying it and all of that, So if they are not known, the people that are causing the mayhem are in there. By the way, IPOB has been fingered. IPOB is the proscribed organization, prescribed by the federal government, but it seems to still be holding sway in that it is putting, words out, asking people to go one way, and the people are, erring on the side of caution and are indeed complying. So, following from what I don't know whether Sly is back up again. Sly? Okay, perhaps not yet. Yes. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you very well now.
Okay, now. You were interrupted then, so let me come back to you because if you heard the submission of Dr. Tony Ofoyetan and his disagreement with the entire move, even as it is still a considered move,
yes.
The problems of not knowing who is giving us headaches, giving the country headache, giving the federal authorities headaches in the southeast, and in particular in Anambra. The same applies in other areas. They don't know who the sponsors of Boko Haram are. In some cases, they say they have ideas, but they're not at liberty to tell us yes why they're investigating. So you were, before the wonky line had sort of interrupted you, I think you were making a case along that line. Would you like to continue?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. And I must quite appreciate some of the guests you have in the studio. They have clearly, explained the prevalent situation. Let me even go back a bit memory lane. Just recently, the governors of the southern region, talking about governors from the southwest, the southeast, and the south-south, came together under the aegis of the Southern Governors Forum. And I think they held a maiden meeting sometime in Asaba, and where certain issues affecting the security as well as the continued corporate existence of Nigeria as one entity were discussed. And the issues of violence and other issues that have affected various parts of the country equally brings to the front burner certain issues that were raised in that meeting, and one of them is the issue of restructuring. For crying out loud, I don't understand how the federal government will want to shift the ball when it comes to the increasing menace of insecurity all over the country. For one of your guests said it therein, the entire security network and architecture is solely in the control of the federal government. I can tell you that within the past 1 month, about 3 commissioners of police have been redeployed to Anambra State without the input of the state government. So when the governor who is working with the parallel commissioner of police, and then he wakes up the next morning and he heard, that the IG has recalled the commissioner of police and asked him to come back to Abuja, and before you know it, another commissioner of police is there. So why would you blame the state government? But be that as it may, the most important thing, like we said, in the past 7 years, if we go back memory lane, in the past 7 years, Anambra State has remained the safest state in the entire federation. And it is as a result of a conscious effort by the government of the day here in Anambra State to improve on the security of lives and property. And that particular position has earned this government several accolades from various quarters, including outside the shores of the country. Now, how come we are approaching the election and then these issues come up? So you can clearly see the handwriting on the wall. Like we maintain that some of these things are politically motivated. The federal government cannot come out now to begin to say, because of pockets of issues, you want to suspend the constitutional order in Anambra State. If you go back to the provisions of the Constitution, if you look at Section 1, subsection 2, it tells you, and I think the Attorney General of the Federation should know that the Federation or any part of it shall not be governed or any part of it taken over except in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. So the APC-controlled federal government should, as a matter of urgency, this is from such touted motive they are talking about, the issue of declaration of state of emergency. It will not work. Well, in the past, we have seen series. It's not as if we are trying to be insensitive to begin to compare, what is happening in other states as well as what is happening in Anambra State. Any single life lost is so precious to all of us in the Anambra that we cannot begin to say, because it's just 2 persons or 3 persons. Any single life is very precious.
Indeed.
And against that background, we still have to make the certain comparisons. In 2015, INEC conducted the election in the 36 states of the Federation, not minding the fact that Boko Haram has taken over control of so many local governments in Borno State. Recently, we've seen cases of bandits entering secondary school, abducting sometimes 50, hundreds, thousands of students in various parts of the country. Those states are controlled by the All Progressive Congress. How come the federal government has never contemplated the declaration of state of emergency in those states?
Yeah.
Just recently, one of the states that had been bedeviled by this issue or menacing issue of banditry is Kaduna State. In August, INEC conducted a by-election in the federal constituency and produced a winner. That election was won by a candidate of the All Progressive Congress. How come the federal government or the Attorney General of the Federation never touted the idea of declaration or proclamation of state of emergency in Kaduna State?
Indeed.
What is so special about Anambra State that there's somebody who is a candidate has boasted in various fora that Anambra State is up for grabs and it has to be taken?
Okay, one moment, please. One moment, please, Mr. Ezeokenwa. As he brings it up, the issue of security, I was quoting from the statement that was put out by Sidon Adinuba, the Commissioner for Information,
yes,
there. And he was actually saying that, well, as far as he's concerned, and he's speaking for the government, no further evidence is required to demonstrate that certain ominous political developments in Anambra State were contrived by a coterie of elements to ruin the November 6 polls so that they could have an opportunity to impose their, his word, not mine, lapdog on the state as the governor. Now, with these confusions, he also made the point, Adinuba also made the point that the incessant change of the Commissioner of Police in that place, I think there must have been something like 5 in recent times. When you factor all of these things, I don't know what you think about the advisability or otherwise of the Attorney General making the statement he made, knowing full well, here is the Commissioner of Information in Anambra saying that the ruling APC is bent on changing by other means the candidates, the eventual governor.
I'm going to make a few remarks to put this discourse in perspectives, and that is from my own standpoint. First, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, under Section 150 of the Constitution, is the Chief Law Officer of this country. And he has the responsibility to advise not just the President, but the federal government, its agencies, parastatals, and what have you. Mm-hmm. So that constitutional rule is known. When you conclude an executive council meeting and an attorney general comes out to summarize or brief the nation as to the kernel or the thrust of that meeting, that kind of statement and information will be taken seriously. In short, those who have gone beyond testing the water, suggesting that it's just merely testing the water, are not wrong. Because indeed, if the views of the Attorney General is sought today in respect of the legal action that is possible to arrest or deal with that situation, it cannot be different from what he has put out there publicly.
Well, yeah.
If he does that, the confusion and ambivalence and conflicted position will continue to deepen. That is the one. The second is, look, we understand the politics and political tension getting close to elections. We know what politicians
In fact,
do.
today is supposed to be the limit for the INEC to release.
Correct.
The,
now we know what they do
candidates.
to undermine themselves and to consolidate their base and to even raise false alarms where necessary. We understand all of those. But the issue is that even if you look at the constitution we are talking about, again, I'm referencing section 305, subsection 4, the state government, through the state governor, supported by 2/3 majority of the State House of Assembly, can even ask the president to declare a state of emergency in that particular state, provided you are not doing that beyond the territory of the state affected. What does that tell you? It tells you that, one, declaration of state of emergency is legitimate. Two, it can be at the instance of the state concerned, but it must be predicated on clear conditions. These clear conditions are stated out there. Outright war, that is when the state is in the state of war, when there is imminent danger, when there are other natural disasters or situations that require extraordinary measures, and so on and so forth. Has these circumstances played out? The answer is what every person is saying. No.
No.
Particularly,
that's what people, for instance, this morning at least.
Particularly when you juxtapose that with the kind of heinous crimes and the scale of violence that have been experienced in other parts of the country. They are saying, wait a minute, it seems there is a political undertone or angle to this. It legitimizes, it reinforces the position of those who are pushing the political theory. Now, but I'm going to conclude this way, sir, because once you raise your hand, you are signaling us to. The way I choose to conclude is to say, gentlemen, particularly the political elites in the entire Southeast must learn to get their acts together. We must constantly build consensus around what we want. In one breath, there is the general clamor for a bite at the presidency. In another breath, you have almost as powerful another group legitimizing that same state that you aspire to lead. It's contradictory in terms. It runs foul in the face of logic. It cannot hold water because they are poles apart. So I believe that it also offers them, beyond shouting and reading political minutes, it offers the Southeast as a bloc, as a geopolitical bloc in Nigeria, a golden opportunity to come together, reassess the situation in a way that clearly shows that if we get our acts together, it could be a win-win situation. Okay. Particularly now that the nation is all focused on the Southeast and the state of affairs there. Okay.
Before I come to Tony, I want to go back to Mr. Ezeokenwa, especially along the lines of the points that Malachi has raised. When you have a non-state actor, apparently as powerful as it is, the proscribed IPOB is, the proscribed IPOB says, lower the Nigerian flags. There are indeed institutions that lower the Nigerian flag over there. The proscribed IPOB says, don't come out, and so on and so forth. When you look at it, can you see some of the reasons why it might be thought that, well, there's a problem, we have a problem here, there's a non-state actor that is claiming and positioning itself to be in as much, if not more power than the constituted authority. How would you respond to that line of thought?
Well, to clearly respond to that, I would say there are certain, allegations that have been made. I am not holding forth for the IPOB. It remains a proscribed organization as far as I'm concerned and within the extant laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But then, let us give IPOB a benefit of the doubt. IPOB has released statements on various occasions denouncing certain proclamations that have been credited to them and will not just shy away from that. IPOB has come out to issue a statement that, look, we have not denounced the conduct of the election. We have not taken any position yet. So the question is, what is really happening? We are not going to shy away from the fact that IPOB, being a non-state actor, wields some considerable authority. That's what we are saying. But the fact remains that it remains within the exclusive preserve of constituted authorities, especially the federal government, being the agency, being the arm of government or the organ of government that is in total control of the security architecture of the nation, to safeguard the nation against any external or internal aggression, including the acts of IPOB. There is no pretensions about that. Now, the state government on its part, this is not just an issue of Anambra State. This is an issue affecting the entire federation. Boko Haram is on some parts of the country saying certain things they are saying. ISWAP are in some areas, bandits. Now you now come to the southeast, you see the activities of IPOB. Just on Tuesday, I think on Monday or Tuesday, the entire crop of leadership of Ndibo, or Hanez Ndibo, the various state governors, senators, or National Assembly members, and other opinion molders and elders of the Southeast region came together under the aegis of the Southeast Security Forum to hold a meeting to discuss generally the precarious or dire security situation in the Southeast. So all these things are issues. If you ask me, the federal government should do more than it is presently doing. Because
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. We'll come back to you in due course. I'm very sorry for interrupting you, Mr. Ezeokenwa. We got to go on a break now, but when we come back, we will indeed come back to you. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back, and we'll include your calls as well. Welcome back, and we still have Malachi Ugwummadu and Tony Ofoyetan. We also had with us Sly Ezeokenwa, the National Legal Adviser of APGA APGA, the ruling party in Anambra State. Tony, to come to you, the security aspect of all of this is what everything is based upon, that the security in that place, they're keeping such a that is the federal authorities, as can be deduced from Malami's voice, is keeping such a keen eye on affairs there that it has said what has turned out to be something. I mean, I don't even know how to describe, but it has just caused consternation all over the place. INEC's deadline to announce the duly recognized candidates for the election, today is the deadline. So it's a coincidence, I think I'll stick out my neck to say. But addressing the security issue, doesn't this in a sort of a way indict the federal government itself? Because it has proscribed IPOB. IPOB still holds sway, by which I mean that it is making unheard of utterances such as, we don't want to see the Nigerian flag flying. And there are people sufficiently intimidated. Usually, private Nigerian citizens don't usually fly the flags in their residences. But corporate organizations, some of them are reported to have complied. Does this point to this being self-indicting on the part of the federal authorities?
Let me start by saying that the government, if you look at the doctrine of compliance in terms of violence, you'll discover that what the terrorist does, or violent groups, what they do is precursor to the actualization of a particular agenda is the principle of instilling fear, fear for the purpose of compliance. Now, Boko Haram adopted the same principle. When Boko Haram was evolving, at that time, there are many northerners and notable rulers, traditional rulers, that came out against them. But unfortunately, each of them were killed. Once you make any public utterance against them, and the next thing before you know is either you are killed or your property is burnt or your place of business is vandalized or destroyed. Now, with time, today, it will shock you to know that a discourse like this is mostly prominent in the South here when it comes to terrorism and all those stuff like that. An average scholar in the North is very reluctant to come all out against terrorists and terrorism or terrorist activities. Now, IPOB or IPOB, if you remember, there was a time I granted an interview on this, and I said that the government is building the culture of violence to the extent that the government has developed itself to the extent that before you can get their listening ear, you have to break bottle. Just the postcard or the placard is not enough to get their listening ear. If you look at IPOB, the way it started, it was a placard principle. They didn't start with all this violence and the like. But immediately after the apprehension of Nnamdi Kanu, now you now saw that things changed. Their approach to their agitation changed. Now those that complied, it is not necessarily because IPOB, they love IPOB, let me do it, or because they respect IPOB so much. But look at a bank that lowered its flag. It's either you lower the flag or that bank building is burnt. It's either you comply or your shop is vandalized or somebody is killed. Why? Because in the past 3 months...
They use the instrumentality of terror.
Terror, yes.
And that's what governments are for, so that shall not be the rule.
But
the rule
unfortunately, the government over time has allowed it.
Okay.
Uncle Yori, as you are sitting down here, you have your agitation. It will shock you that if you carry a placard and stand at National Assembly, it will just be in the news and that's all. No government will listen. But Uncle Yori, the day you go to National Assembly with a dead gun, even without shooting it, shoot into the air, so even the Senate President will come out. Why? Because we have developed to the extent that until there's violence, government will not listen.
I take the point you're making. Mr. Abdullahi in Katsina. Good morning, sir. Thank you for holding on. Go ahead now, please.
Okay. I want to contribute, please.
Yes, go ahead, please.
My take in this thing is that this situation has even gone beyond what you people are thinking about. It is Buhari that wants to retain power even after 2023.
Oh.
I'm telling you this.
Mr. Abdullahi. Mr. Abdullahi. I'm sure you didn't just come on in order to be sensational.
Let me land. He wants to plant his people around the country so that by the time it is for election in 2023, then they will speak against, they will say there is no peace, the elections cannot hold in this area, let us declare a state of emergency, let us do this, give him 6 months to this is what the plan is. And I'm very happy that you people are seeing through this man. He is the problem, that he is a dictator and he wants to retain power at all costs. And this you should...
Okay, well, Mr.
That's
Abdullahi, the opinion is clearly yours. It was surprising because there doesn't seem to most people to be anything to sort of back up that position. So entirely your opinion. Thank you very much for calling in. Okay, I understand that we have Mr. Ezeokenwa back. Let me ask you this: you heard it when Malachi had made the sort of proposition that, look, it would appear that people need to stand up and be counted and not be diffused about it in terms of, are you condemning and totally against matters like IPOB or any such organization, non-state actor, or are you not? I think you lawyers refer to approbating and reprobating because I just listen. I'm around lawyers so much. I hear some of these things.
Not at the same time. The problem is when you do that at the same time.
Yes. So how would you call it, Sly?
Now, personally, on a very personal level, I would say that there are rights within the context of both our national laws and international laws. Under the international law, there is that right for, towards the self-determination that is inherent. And now, under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it says that Nigeria or any part of it cannot be governed or any part of it taken over except in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. Now, it is the duty of the federal government to, maintain and the unity and cohesion of the various constituent parts of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, IPOB on their own feel genuinely aggrieved with certain issues bordering on marginalization of the Southeast and other issues, and that have made them come up with the agitation for a proclamation of the sovereign state of Biafra. IPOB is not the first organization to do that. We had MASOB in the past. So all these issues are issues.
Yeah, but clearly the government, the elected government is unable to make a difference
That's
to IPOB strutting its stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Now, there was something Malachi said about the insensitivity of the federal government. And it is that insensitivity that fuels most of these things. I'll give you a very simple example. If you remember very well the case of El Zakzaki, you know, the leader of the Shiite group, you know, you don't just solve a problem by just coming out to say, oh, I've proclaimed, I've proscribed this organization. You remember when El Zakzaki was arrested, there were many court orders asking the federal government release so and so person on bail. The federal government violated those orders. So in the face of this crass disobedience of court orders, all these organizations will have no other option than to take any available option available at their disposal for them to, you know, pass their views or whatever they feel is their grievance across to the federal government. And you will not blame them. Why did these issues, let us assume that IPOB have been behind some of these issues of violence across the Southeast. Recently, Nnamdi Kanu was arrested by the federal government or by a combination of security agencies outside the shores of the country, brought and then was asked to be remanded in DSS custody. On the day he was supposed to be brought to court, because there is that constitutional guarantee of right to, first of all, right to innocence, because every accused person is presumed innocent until pronounced guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. What stopped the Department of State Services from producing the suspect before the court, rather than coming up with a flimsy excuse of, oh, we could not get an operational vehicle to convey the accused person to court.
So are you reading some sort of complicity? Are you therefore saying
yes,
you're saying complicity in this?
What I'm saying,
you're saying complicity on the part of the federal authorities in this?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, one moment please, because I've got to take Shegun calling in from Enugu State. I beg your pardon for interrupting you. Shegun has been on the line from Enugu State. Good morning, Shegun.
Yes, good morning. Hello, Kuyori, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. You know, for the opportunity. I greet your guests at the studio.
Okay.
And I want to just come in quickly, you know, to support the view that our president is solely responsible for all the insecurity in every part of the country, Anambra State inclusive. And I say so because he is the commander-in-chief and he is the chief security officer of the nation. Even though state governments are made to fund police and all that, it is supposed to be the responsibility of the federal government. And he has not demonstrated capacity at all. Any part of the country, he has not demonstrated capacity so far. There's a news that we just saw online. I don't know whether it has been on your studio, because I came in late. That Nigeria police pursued an unknown gunman in Imo State and shot him dead, only to discover that he's DSS officer. I don't know how true that is. And then you come to Anambra State, you see all the rampant killing everywhere. I am in Enugu, as you know, I'm calling from Enugu.
Okay.
And when IPOB started with placards, simple protest, armless people. I was in Enugu when army came, military officers came and massacred boys.
Okay, Shegun. So what therefore is the import? Are you also alleging complicity on the part of the federal government to destabilize affairs in the Southeast? Is that where all of this is leading to?
Yes, that's where it's leading. The federal government should be able to respond with capacity.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your call. I really do appreciate your call. But again, that's one of those where your opinion is entirely yours. I interrupted Ezeokenwa, but still he had made his point, and we have to go back to it, which is this whole matter about, and you first of all brought the thought out on this morning, at least in this studio here, that they need to be, you think the intelligentsia in the Southeast needs to be a lot more, a lot clearer was that the point you were making? A lot clearer in terms of where they are. I was making that joke about overhearing lawyers talk so much that I'm able to use things like, say things like approbating and reprobating. Would you like to clarify that point?
I entered a caveat that the problem is when you approbate and reprobate at the same time. So this is my point, and I think it is important to understand me rather clearly. Where the political elite, and I choose that word advisedly because I could have as well said the political class, where the political elite is unable to craft a mission that is profound enough in galvanizing not just the interest but the enthusiasm of the generality of the people, what you get is a kind of convoluted situation that you have at the moment. And the one in the southeast is very clear. The elite are clamoring, albeit pretentiously. I have not seen a very serious, pointed, aggressive, coordinated desire to aim at that presidency. Where their claim is that they want to have a shot at the presidency. And there is yet some, if you like, collaboration, some accommodation of an equally formidable group that is delegitimizing that entity that you aspire to lead. And
missing in the discourse is an absolute and total condemnation, for example, of IPOB.
Correct.
Totally unequivocal.
Inclusive of the fact that it requires and takes such political elites to be able to get these things clearly and move every person in the direction of that mission. That is the presidency. You can't be talking of presidency and secession at the same time. It's contradictory in terms.
I like it's clear. Ganio in Dublin, Ireland. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yuri.
Thank you for calling in.
I'm calling to, what happened in Nigeria, especially in the Southeast now, is the leaders and the elite of the Southeast, when all of them supposed to come out and condemn the issue of IPOD, they didn't do so. And this thing is now getting bigger than anybody. Nobody knows where this thing is going to end. And then the only crazy thing about it to me is like how the Yoruba people allow these people from Southeast rewrite the history for us. You understand me? If we listen now, everybody in Nigeria is agitated. We know that, but that doesn't mean we have to be killing people, destroy people's property. You understand me? Just remember, in 1960, if Azikiwe formed government with Awolowo, imagine where Nigeria would be today. You understand me? This thing that the Southeast people are starting now, they've been doing it forever in our history. People should look at each other and tell each other the truth. The first bloody coup in Nigeria is started by somebody from that region. You understand me? The first coup, the constitution that we're crying now, it was all the power moved to the center by the government of somebody from that region. You understand me? Because
thank you very much, Ganio, in Dublin, Ireland. But the time is far spent. I've not, either from a call-in or from studio or remotely, quite frankly, nobody has seemed to indicate any kind of sympathy for the position or the thinking of the Attorney General in coming out and making the statement that he did. And we need to be clear, he hasn't said that it is imminent, but he has said enough to concern a lot of people. He has said, I think the expression was that it won't be taken off the table. Yes. And what do you mean? How did you even go there? That's why lawyers, all our contributors this morning, including the National Legal Adviser, of course, obviously, of APGA, Tony Ofoyetan, Malachi Ugwummadu, everybody, they say that from a legal point of view, they can't even see why it was even necessary to go there. But it has, the Attorney General has, shall we say, flown that kite. Maybe that's the way to put it. I don't have very much more time. Maybe, gentlemen, just a sentence each, really. And let me start with our remote guest. So, Mr. Ezeokenwa, you know, in leaving now, where would you like to leave this against the backdrop of the point that I made, that no statement has been made that a state of emergency will willy-nilly be declared, but at least it won't be taken off the table?
Yeah, the point has to be made so that Nigerians will understand what is playing out in Anambra State, and should all rise up, you know, against the tyrannical proclamation or suggestion, if I may use that word, of the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. I'm sorry. I can't allow more than a one-liner, and it's not me, it's time. Thank you very much, Sly Ezeokenwa, APGA National Legal Adviser. Thank you very much for joining us today. I don't know.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, thank you. Tony, would you like a word?
Well, I think I will want to plead with the government to understand that at times what we avoid, if we don't avoid starting it from our own end, especially when it involves violence, it may erupt much more than we think.
Okay.
So the government should look inward. Whatever utterances, demeanor, action that would hit the polity the more, they should avoid it.
Okay, Malachi, a one-liner.
State of emergency is recognized by the Constitution. It is legitimate. But the people of the Southeast should not allow the situation to deteriorate up to the point where it will be justified. Okay,
thank you very much. And so that's our program. We're going to have to leave it there. Not even any more time for any commentary. Thank you very much for staying with us. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.